Hey, Tracy, Bill Harwood at the Kennedy Space Center. How are you? And thanks for taking time to chat with me.
Hey, Bill. I'm good. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, I was recalling your past missions, and I was recalling your 3 spacewalks the other day. I'm wondering, is there any chance of you getting to go outside on this flight?
There's a good chance. We've got 3 EVAs planned for our increment, and I am one of the spacewalkers trained to do those EVAs, and we'll just see how they all work out and who goes out and who stays inside to get them all suited up.
Are they all, and I should know this, are they all IROSA EVAs, or is there something else you guys might be doing?
We have one IROSA mod kit EVA, and that one is planned right now for the end of the series. The first 2 involve a whole collection of tasks that are not related to one another. The main task on the first one is the RFG removal that was attempted on 2 previous EVAs.
Right.
And then the main task on the second one is the CP9, the camera group R&R.
Gotcha. You know, obviously you're launching with one crew and coming down with another. Has that affected training at all, or is it pretty much just the same thing as the last time around?
Oh, it's affected it a little bit. Yeah. It's just a good thing we've got procedures and standards, and as crew, we know how to operate as a team, and so that's really helped. But the specific dynamics have changed a little bit just because you're working with different people. So it in some ways has been a seamless transition, but in other ways it's had its own unique characteristics, shall we say.
Understood. You know, we covered Oleg's 3 previous flights, but I don't know much about Marina Vasilevskaya. What's it been like training with her?
It's actually been a real delight working with Marina. She's got a fantastic attitude, and that goes a long way when you're working together with emergency masks on your face in awful conditions, trying to get through procedures. So she's been a real delight to work with.
What made you decide to stay in the office and hang around for another 13 or 14 years for a chance to do this again? I mean, I always think about the training you guys undergo for flights, and it's pretty intense. And the reward has to be there. Obviously, it is for you. But what is that reward? Why'd you decide to hang around?
I think that part of it is having spent so much time on the ground making improvements to what was going on board and in our training. That's where I've spent the majority of my time is serving the space station in its operations, as well as the development of other training aspects, as well as the real-time missions. And so for me, the reward is going up there and seeing how efficient everything is, given the amount of time that we have spent making improvements since we transitioned from assembling the space station to actually utilizing it.
Well, when it comes to the flight itself, what's the main attraction for you? You know, everybody always says looking at the Earth and being weightless. I mean, that's a given. But I guess it's an extension of what you just said. Seeing that in action in space is the attraction for you. But thought I'd ask anyway.
For sure. It's seeing all of the improvements. I was involved in a lot of improvements to the cargo transfer process, as well as the crew provisioning, even the EVA training and philosophy on how we conduct our spacewalks. And so I'm just really looking forward to seeing those as they have progressed since I've been there last, as well as the improvements I had nothing to do with, but I'm looking forward to enjoying the benefits of just the way that we conduct the timeline. That has completely changed since I was there. There's more flexible activities. We've got a timeline viewer that's really snazzy, and I can't wait to be on board using it. As a Capcom, I've used it quite a bit supporting crews, and I'm really looking forward to having my life governed by something a little easier than what we had before. Little things like that.
Yeah, I bet. How tough is it when you consider the travel and the time away from home? I mean, is training? I mean, obviously it's worth it to you, but I mean, how difficult is that to make all this work?
You hit the nail on the head. That's the toughest part about what we do is the training, which requires us to be away from home for long periods of time. And when I did this on my first 2 flights, it was not as bad because it was really just me at home. I had a dog that others were willing to take care of. My husband was deployed on a ship, and so there was nobody at home that I was leaving behind. We both had our own thing going on, but now it's a little different. And I have a lot of support from my family, who's reminded me over and over that I'm doing this for them as much as I'm doing it for myself.
I got time for one last question. You know, I like your bio list: hiking, auto repair, maintenance, and anything with power tools. Well, other than a PGT, there's not much of that going on aboard the ISS. What do you do in your spare time up there?
Well, this time I'm gonna just see how I can help the others. You know, I think that part of the beauty of living on board is being part of a crew and a team and helping each other out. So if I've got any spare time and the rest of my compadres are working, then I'm certainly going to try to lend a hand where I could. But if we're all experiencing some free time, I'm really looking forward to that view out the window. I had such a great memory, and that cupola shot that I took certainly captures that of viewing the Earth, and that just never gets old.
Well, you got to give us another one of those shots on this flight, too. That was great. Hey, thanks a lot, Tracy. Look forward to talking to you in orbit, and have a great flight.
Thanks a lot, Bill. You too.
Thank you. All right. Tracy, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I'm aware that this is your, third exploration going to the space here. What is the major mission of Expedition 71, and how does your role take shape as flight engineer?
I think the major role of our expedition is to continue doing the science and supporting the station in maintenance and upgrades. And my particular role is to serve on board in the capacity of engineer, scientist, as well as the hands-on wrench monkey when something breaks and I need to help fix it.
Yeah, and the last time that you were on the ISS was in 2010. In what ways has it been updated since your last stay?
Oh gosh, a lot. It's been about 14 years since I've been there, and everything from how we view our timeline and interact with it to just the philosophy of how we get through scheduled activities on board, and just making certain activities flexible for astronauts to do at particular times of the day that are most convenient for them, as opposed to a rigid timeline. It may seem like a small thing, but it's a really big deal on board to make things efficient. And that's, I think, the primary change from when I was there before. When I was there before, it was the transition between building the space station to utilizing it. And now that we've been utilizing it for over a decade, our operations have become quite efficient. And I'm really looking forward to experiencing that new paradigm.
As part of Expedition 71 crew, you are launching with the Russian Roscosmos Soyuz MS-25 spacecraft and joining the SpaceX Dragon 8 crew, who will be launching a few weeks ahead of you. Languages aside, what are the major differences in training, mission prep, and technology between the traveling space forces?
Oh, wow. We're going to need a lot of time to go through all of that. But I would say, obviously, language is one. So on the Soyuz, the primary language is, and the sole language is Russian. And so we speak that, we read that, everything's in Russian. So that's one of the biggest differences. The other is that I spend a great deal of time here in Russia doing the training, as opposed to if I had launched on a SpaceX, where I would spend a lot more time in Houston. Technology-wise, they're both automated, the vehicles, to some large extent, but the Soyuz does have some manual capability that if something were to not look right with the automated system, we would download to that. I like to say about the Soyuz that it's it's a tried and true, a tested vehicle, and one of its strengths is in its robustness. its straightforward philosophy on how to fly a capsule. And so because of some of those things, as a crew member, it's really rewarding to study the systems and to interact with them and to be part of the crew on board those systems.
Yeah, it's very cool. You have a 6-month stay on the ISS ahead of you. How do you personally prepare for such a stay mentally and physically? And how do you make it feel like home?
A lot of prayer goes into it. I've got a fantastic support system at home, and my husband reminds me all the time that I'm doing this as much for him as I am for myself, and so that goes a long way towards keeping me focused on the job that I have at hand. Um, I've done this before, and the benefit of that is knowing what I need to focus on and what I don't need to focus on, and that helps me to just adds extra peace going into it that perhaps on my first flight I didn't have. Those are some of the thoughts that I have.
You've taken arguably the coolest and maybe most iconic selfie in the known universe. For those unfamiliar, can you tell us a little bit more about the cupola and why it's your favorite room on the ISS?
The cupola is our bay window. It's our view of home and that gorgeous planet. And let me tell you, when you look outside the cupola, whether you're looking at the Earth, whether you're looking at the universe, whether you're looking at the miraculous structure of the space station, there is always something new to see and something that just puts you in complete awe of where you are and what you get to do. And so I'm very much looking forward to peering out the cupola again.
I know that you're a big fan of space media, consulting on films like The Martian and filming your own station life show for NASA TV. Can we expect more from you in front of or behind the camera for this mission, and maybe any insight into a potential set list of songs to be performed while in space?
Well, there might be a little bit of station life going on board. We'll see how things work out. You know, there's a lot of work to do, so those kinds of activities and projects take a little time. But I know that myself and my crewmates on the SpaceX side are looking forward to some downtime filming that. So we hope that that works out. Let's see, what was your other question? I got so lost thinking about filming station life.
I just know that you're a fan of that you sing and that you're a musician. I was curious if you had any a set list or anything that you've been working on practicing to sing once you're up there in space.
Oh no, I am not going to sing when I'm up there. My goodness, my crewmates would probably go nuts if they heard me singing up there. But I do have music that I love to listen to, and I've got my playlist, everything from soothing Enya to some Christian artists that I really enjoy. Yeah, I'll probably be keeping my tunes to myself, though. Don't want to disturb anybody.
I know that you mentioned your faith is very important to you. How has your concept of God and the heavens changed or evolved with your time that you've spent above the clouds?
You know, I think most of my my faith has grown more in my life on the earth, and it's because of that that I look forward to taking that strength with me up in orbit and serving others with it. But when I'm looking at the earth from the vantage point of the space station, it just reminds me of how incredible our creator is. And when you look at the earth through your with your own eyes from that vantage point, um, you're almost in disbelief that we exist in the blackness of space. And it makes me appreciate my faith even more.
Thank you so much for your time today, and best of luck with this mission and your future career in space.
Thanks a lot, Jody. It's nice talking to you.
Dr. Dyson, good morning. I've got a 9-minute segment to fill and only 7 minutes with you, so I'm going to jump right in, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Oh, terrific. Hey, you know, as someone who's flown on the shuttle, Soyuz, at this point, what is the hardest part of your job?
Oh, the hardest part, I think, is being away from family.
Well, you've experienced that before, so I guess you say that from experience and knowing what that separation is like. Although I'm guessing communication between the station and family is a lot easier now than when you were making missions up there back in the shuttle days.
Yes, it's gotten progressively easier, but what made it difficult the last time was that my husband was on board a Navy carrier. And so it was amazing how NASA and the Navy connected two moving ships, but that made it a little bit more difficult to stay in touch. But regardless, it's always difficult to be away from family and to not be experiencing some of this amazing stuff without them.
And how is your time now in Star City getting ready? You know, Russia and the U.S. have been working in space for decades, even while there may be rising or ebbing tensions here on Earth. What's been like getting ready for launch?
Getting ready here for launch has been actually pretty straightforward, pretty much like before, other than the fact that my crew has changed a few times since I was first assigned. But yeah, we're pretty isolated here in Star City where we train, and our days are pretty full of theoretical classes, simulations, and just a lot of training. So it's been actually quite nice to be here and be able to focus solely on the training here on the Soyuz as well as the Russian segment and getting to know my new crewmates.
Do you find that things have changed over your different flights, or is it more of a refresher course from what you learned a couple of years ago?
Well, on the Soyuz, there's certainly a lot that is the same. The Soyuz is robust in its traditional, design, and but they have done some upgrades, and so it's been fun to learn what those are. Plus, instead of using paper procedures, we've got iPads. Instead of a 34 orbit rendezvous, we take 2 orbits to get to space station, and I can't tell you how excited I am to experience that. So there's been a number of changes in the Soyuz alone, and then the Russian segment itself has just continued to grow in the number of modules that it has. And so, yeah, there's been some new stuff, and it's the station itself is becoming more and more complex. And so regardless of how many times I've been there, I find myself with a whole new list of things to learn and master.
Yeah, 6'6" me. You're not stuffing into that Soyuz. Plus, I'm claustrophobic, and 34 orbits. Nope, not going to happen.
Yeah, you'd be a little uncomfortable sitting in that seat for that long.
So what is it that you're looking forward to? I mean, do you like the launch? You've launched aboard a shuttle. You've launched aboard a Soyuz. Are you looking forward to the view from the cupola? I've heard the shrimp cocktail can't be beat up there.
Yes, all of that. Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to the launch. I am definitely looking forward to the hatch opening and seeing my friends. I'm looking forward to seeing the space station again and living on board. I can't wait to experience all of this with the folks who are doing it for the first time, as well as seeing some of my old friends up there. Yeah, there's just so much I'm looking forward to, and some of it's the same, like the cupola. Some of it's new, like the people who are going to be up there.
And the shrimp cocktail, is it really that good, or have you had it?
Yeah, definitely the shrimp cocktail. I do have some new foods to try while I'm up there. You know, they changed the menu and reformulated some of the food, so I can't wait to try some of the new stuff.
There is the phenomenon, though, where either astronauts or people in zero-G tend to crave spicier foods or need some sort of a sauce, right, to make things spicier. Is it because you lose your taste buds or something?
You know, I think everybody's different. I actually found myself not needing, I was on that other end of the spectrum. I didn't need so much spice when I was up there, and I like spice here on the ground. So, but your taste buds do kind of change. I do not know why that is. It might be something to do with the fluid shifts in your body, but I do know that no matter how much your taste buds change, there is plenty of food up there.
Well, good to hear. All right, and then flip side, what is it you sort of have to steel yourself for? Is it no showers, no privacy, I'd imagine the place sort of smells like feet and food. So what do you sort of have to brace yourself for, other than being separated from family? That's a given.
Uh, it doesn't smell bad out there, like feet and food, but only at certain times of the day can we smell what's going on at the Russian segment, because our airflow system makes its way into the area where we work out. So sometimes you can at lunchtime know what they're making over there. But for the most part, the station's a really pleasant place to be. I do miss running water at a certain point. I think it's about month 4. But two things I miss are crunchy lettuce and the smell of coffee. Those I know.
Ah, all right. I don't know how you'd wake up otherwise. And then, there was that famous line from the Carl Sagan book Contact, where, they said they should have sent a poet. Do we need to send more poets to the space station?
Well, who's to say we haven't sent poets? I mean, I think that a lot of the folks that I fly with are very good with words. And I think that the view out the cupola, though, kind of makes us all speechless. So maybe if somebody was really trained in the use of words in a poetic fashion, it might help those that don't want to climb in a rocket to see it, maybe experience it a little bit more vividly.
Hey, Dr. Dyson, thank you so much for your time, and be safe up there. I look forward to having you come home.
Thanks a lot, Roy. Nice talking to you.
Good morning, Tracy. Good to see you this morning, and we'll start right in with it. This is your second flight in the Soyuz, the second expedition to increment for you. So you're a rare member of the 2-2 Club. 14 years, though, for you to wait to go back up to the station. Watching this morning, I see the joy written all over your face, and obviously you think the long wait was worth it to go back. Tell us why.
Well, I have been not just sitting idle for those 14 years between flights. I have been working pretty hard to support the space station, to help its development, and to train astronauts who are new at the job how to do it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all of the fruit that has been produced from the efforts of so many people in the development of the station since we transitioned from assembly to utilization. We have just instituted so much that has made life on board better and more efficient. And the kind of work that we're doing up there is very sophisticated.
Give me a couple of the things that you recommended for possible changes after your first increment.
Oh, sure. It was a lot of the stowage and cargo operations. Again, we were plagued by the constant churn of shuttle flights and bringing hardware up there, and really not having a plan yet for how everything should come home, and just how to stow things on board the space station, because it was constantly changing, because we were constantly building it. And so, having been there during a quiet phase of the assembly of the station, gave me some insight into things that we could do a little better now that we were going to be in a steady stream of activity, as opposed to constantly changing the configuration of the station. So I was involved in rearranging how we did crew provisioning, just how we thought about cargo operations, and just how we regarded the space station in general in terms of functional spaces and things like that. I was also, with my experience in spacewalk and kind of the historical nature of our spacewalks, being the first time we did a set of contingency EVAs from the space station crew alone, that gave me some insight to help redesign the training for the initial training for the astronauts that came in. And so I was busy working on redesigning the whole of the EVA training and qualifications system.
Sometimes we tend to forget that you are very, very human, and I'm guessing you wouldn't be doing this a second time without the support of your husband. Just wondering, how hard is it to maintain that close connection while you're in orbit for 6 months at a time?
Wow, Peter, I so much appreciate that question, because my husband has been a tremendous source of support for me. His background is in aviation, Navy pilot, and he was deployed on a ship, so he knows very well what it's like to be deployed, what it's like to train, and to be away from family for a long time. So he's just been a tremendous support, and understands a great deal of what I do. He also worked at NASA. That's how we met before he went into the military. So he understands very well the type of operations that we do and the nature of the space station. But he's also a man of God, and he is what has helped strengthen my faith, especially in a lot of situations that we as astronauts find ourselves in, where things just are simply not within our control. And so he has been a great source of inspiration for me there.
Well, you must have been reading my mind, because my next question is right up that alley. You've talked about your faith. I'm wondering, and this is not meant as a silly question by any means, do you feel closer to God when you're in space?
I feel close to God just about anywhere I am, but being in space gives me such a touching visual of his power and dominion over my life. And so if I could say anything about being in space and feeling close to God, it's just that I have one of the most tear-jerking reminders of how small I am and how yet big he is.
Okay, on a lighter note, a phrase I hate, but it really kind of fits. We know that there are a lot of movies aboard the station. A lot of them are sci-fi movies. So what's it like watching sci-fi in space while you're living it?
Yeah, well, I don't think I've done that yet, but I just might. It's sometimes hard enough to watch sci-fi when I'm, sitting in a chair in a theater, just because you see things and you're like, oh man, that's not how it works. But I do appreciate cinema and some of the leaps that they take, because it does make what we do sound really exciting. But I haven't tried watching anything like that on board. I just might suggest that to my crewmates.
We are coming down to what I think is going to be my last question. So we'll ask what you're most excited about for this increment.
Oh, I have to pick just one. I would have to say that it is seeing all my friends up there. If I had to pick one, I'll call out one in particular, Sunny Williams and Barry Wilmore. If everything goes well and the Boeing CFT launch takes place in April, then we're going to be in space together. Sunny and I not only were selected the same year and are in the same class, but we interviewed together and we've been friends ever since. And so it'll be real emotional to see her up there and for us to be up there together, given everything that we've been through. So I think that's one of the things I'm most looking forward to.
Okay, are you going to run a marathon with her up there?
Oh, heck no, I'm a sprinter. She's a long distance runner. We are so opposite. It's not even funny, but no, but if she wants to run a marathon, I'm going to be there cheering her on.
Tracy, thank you so much. Safe launch, safe mission. We look forward to talking with you again.
Thank you. I look forward to talking to you too, Peter.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, Tracy. Good morning. How are you? Thank you for sharing some minutes with me.
Yeah, I'm doing good, Manuel. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Tracy, you're going back to the space station after 14 years, and I'm so curious to know, what is it that the first thing you're going to do after arriving there? I mean, besides hugging your crewmates and after the welcoming ceremony, what is it that a returning astronaut would do? Are you visiting every segment and every corner to see how things have changed?
Well, that's a really good idea. I might do that, but my goal will be to get into that cupola if we're allowed to open the shutters at that time. That'll be my first stop for sure.
Right. We know that you're going to be extremely busy on board with both scientific and maintenance activities, but I know you will be working in a particular experiment to understand how fire behaves in space using the Combustion Integrated Rack. Could you please explain to us why it's so important to control fire in space, and if you could describe its behavior in space, because we know we've seen water, tons of video of astronauts like cleaning their hair, but we haven't seen fire, of course, for obvious reason, and we never do. But could you please describe its behavior?
I'll do my best, having not seen fire in space, which I'm extremely grateful for, but we do train an inordinate amount of time on how to protect ourselves in case there is a fire. So I can tell you right now that we, as a core of astronauts and crew members on board the space station, are very interested in this kind of science. And the way that flames behave in space is actually pretty fascinating, where there's not, especially in a controlled environment like in the SIR rack, the Combustion Integration Rack, where it's a controlled environment and you don't have these buoyancy effects like you do here on Earth. And that classic shape of a flame is due to all of the convection that goes on here in the 1G environment. But up in space, flames act like a sphere. And so if you can think about how then that flame interacts with the atmosphere and fuel, that it's much different than here on Earth. And the investigations that are ongoing are interested in looking at that interface, and in particular, how a flame spreads. And that's one of the things that we try to do. Like in the Soyuz, the only thing we can do when we're in that small capsule, and if there is a fire that we experience, is to evacuate the space, or to basically evacuate the air from our capsule. There's not a whole lot you can do to suppress a fire when you're in the environment, when you have to stay in the environment where the fire is. And so understanding how flames spread and what parameters help to extinguish a flame, or to actually entice it to spread, are really important in spacecraft design and space station design. And so the study that is ongoing right now on board the space station is looking at those kinds of aspects.
Thank you, Tracy. We saw you training for EVA, and can you tell us how many EVAs are you going to do? And you've been already in 3 spacewalks in space. Is the training any different from your last mission?
A little bit different. So we have 3 right now planned for our increment, and there are 3 of us who are qualified to do those EVAs, and so they will send us out in a pair in one of those combinations. And I'm certain that all 3 of us will get a chance to do 1 or 2 of those spacewalks. And so looking forward to that. The training has changed somewhat in that when I was going through my initial training as a ASCAN, or an astronaut candidate, many of the EVAs that we did were shuttle based, and they were highly choreographed. And the spacewalks that we do today, we have to train in a skills based fashion as opposed to a task based fashion. And so the training that I've been involved in since returning from the space station has really been focused on how we improve the skills of our spacewalkers as they go out and do EVAs that they may not have practiced much on the ground.
Great. I heard you mention several times the importance of mentorship in this career and how critical it is to have a mentor. And I know you're flying with Marina Vasilevskaya, her first flight, and she's not a professional cosmonaut. Do you believe that she considers you as a mentor, or at least for this mission?
Coach, I would love to hear what her answer is on that one. I do very much enjoy training with Marina. She's got a fantastic attitude. What she lacks in experience, she makes up for in that attitude. She's with her background in as a flight attendant, she's no stranger to operations. We think of flight attendants as those who serve us drinks on our flights, but they actually are there for our safety. And what I'm impressed with Marina is that she understands that. She's really humble. She really appreciates this opportunity that she's been given. And because of that, it's been a real joy to work with her. I do know that she's very respectful toward me and toward Oleg, and I imagine that that is in part because of our experience, and she definitely is depending on us to help her get through the things that are unfamiliar to her. And so, yeah, I guess you could say that uh, we are, regardless of how she looks at us, mentors of sorts.
Tracy, have you left any personal objects somewhere in the station, knowing that someday you would come back and see it again?
I can't tell you that. No, I'm just kidding. No. I took everything home with me that meant a lot to me. And the only thing that I left up there was a note. And I know that it was, I don't know if it's still there. I'm curious. But many of my colleagues who've been up there since I returned have told me that they saw this note. And it was one that I posted on our ARED, our resistive exercise device. And it read, "Nothing's more important than what you're doing right now." And that mantra applies to whatever you're doing on the space station, but in particular when you're working out on that monstrous device. And that's what
Tracy,
I left there was that note.
I know you're busy. Just last question. I know this is your third flight to space, second long duration. Is there any room left for a fourth mission?
Oh, I don't know. Ask me that when I get back.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Tracy.
you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, hello, Tracy. Elizabeth Howell from space.com. How's your morning going or afternoon?
It's great, Elizabeth. Thanks. Yeah, it's going good.
That's great. Thank you. So I wanted to actually begin with a question about the new moon landing. The United States just landed again on the moon for the first time in 50 or so years. And so I wanted to get your thoughts about what that means for NASA, what that means for the Artemis program. Can you share a few thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it means we can do it, and we're going back. It's we've got hopefully some momentum from this that's going to propel us to keep moving with Artemis 2 and 3 and beyond, and do all the hard things that we have ahead of us. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Thank you. So one of my favorite pictures ever on the International Space Station is one of you leaning in the cupola where you're looking down at Earth, and I've seen it all over the place. Do you mind talking a little bit about the behind the scenes, how you actually were able to capture that picture? Were you doing it by yourself? Did you have some help? Can you talk to us about how that happened?
Well, thanks, Elizabeth. I'd love to, because the backstory is meaningful to me as the photo that I was able to get. It was right after our series of EVAs, and I was getting ready to come back home. And my psych doc said, "What are you going to miss the most up there?" And I said, "That cupola and the view from it." And they said, "Well, you need to take a picture." And so then I worked for about 3 weeks on setting up the camera and myself, and the remote control to operate the shutter, and just get the most perfect lighting. And what I was going for was an image that reminded me, whenever I looked at it, of what it felt like to look out the window. And in the raw photo that was actually the one that I sent down to the ground, the exposure was set for the Earth and not necessarily so that you could see me. And that was so that I could just see the silhouette of me. And the recreations of that photo have actually overexposed me in the photo. So you can see that it's me, but nevertheless, you can still see that beautiful planet and what that cupola provides for us in terms of a window to it. And it was when I sent the photo actually to my photo TV instructor, Steve Berenswig, and I just wanted to show him that I thought I got the right lighting and everything. And then my crewmate, Doug Wheelock, saw this photo and he said, "Hey, TC, can I tweet that?" And I was like, "Oh, I guess, sure." And that's how it got out into the internet. And so that's the backstory behind the cupola shot.
I love that. Can you talk a little bit about how your training alongside your dad as an electrician really helped you with technical matters on the space station, with space exploration, even for spacewalks?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Gosh, I don't know how to put it in a nutshell. I started working with my father and going on job sites before I was 7 years old. But when I was 7, that's when he started giving me a tool because I had just way too much energy to be on the job site without doing something useful. And so from that age all the way through my development into adulthood and all the way through high school, college, and graduate school, I was working for my father doing construction. And not only that, I was watching my father solve problems. And for this fifth grader who was scared to death of word problems, it was very encouraging for me to watch my father actually work out a word problem real time, like as part of his job. And it really helped me overcome the fear that I had that I just couldn't understand these things. And so, and that was very helpful for me going into chemistry because, you know, anybody who's studied chemistry knows that that's all just one big word problem. So, um, from that to just the kind of work that I did in graduate school as well as an undergraduate researcher was all hardware intensive. You know, I worked as much with tools in my hands as I did with beakers and chemicals. I was working with lasers that broke down and pumps that broke down and all those kinds of things. So imagine all of that carrying it to the space station where you don't have a hardware store just around the corner and you have to make do with what you have. And you know, when pumps fail and you got to go do a spacewalk to fix it, it all just seemed to go really well with the training that I had with my father.
That makes a lot of sense. So speaking of EVAs, I know that you've obviously been outside a few times. You've developed the EVA qualification training flow for astronaut candidates. And I just was thinking, now we've got these new spacesuits. We've got the new generation for the space station and also for Artemis. And so what are you looking forward to in terms of what those newer spacesuits can provide as compared with the older generation?
Oh, wow. I hope mobility. I mean, that's one of the things that makes spacewalks so hard because as fantastic as our EMU is, and let me tell you, I respect our spacesuit. It is one of the hardest things to do to maneuver in it. And that's for all the bearings and the pressurization in the suit. It's it's going to be really cool to see suits that have more mobility because you have to actually walk in these things for exploration. So I'm really looking forward to the extra mobility, hopefully, that these suits will provide and the visibility.
I wanted to shift quickly into your American Sign Language background because I know that you did some work with the community while you were up there last time. Can you first talk about briefly how that got started and then if you plan any other events on your coming mission?
Yeah, sure. The sign language started when I was in high school, and there was a girl on the track team with me who was deaf and used sign language. And so I wanted to communicate with her. So I learned a little sign language, and that's where it started. And then throughout my life and my academic career, I pursued sign language in formal training. And so in fact, when I was a graduate student and the word got out that I knew sign language, we had one deaf student that one of my fellow graduate students asked if I could take her on in my as a in my office hours where I was teaching other undergraduates, and so she and I developed a relationship, and my world opened up learning just how amazing it is, the work that those in the deaf community have to do to overcome some of the barriers that they face in a hearing world. And there was this young lady at a hearing university trying to manage watching the professor teach the class, take her notes, see the interpreter, and all of these things. And so it really helped me appreciate all that they do just to maneuver in a hearing world. So then when I went to the space station, I wanted to very much reach out to that community in a way that made the space station accessible to them in their language. And so that's what brought on that sign language project. But unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to circle back with that community to provide any kind of project on this mission. But you never know, I might just whip out a little saying or two in sign language and send that down.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that you that you had that experience. I wanted to talk also about Starliner because I know that you were the lead in development of the Capcom cadre for that mission operations team. And so what does it mean for you to potentially see Starliner finally get into space for you and also for the team?
It's super exciting. I don't want to jinx it by talking about it, but I am super excited to see that vehicle come to the front door of the space station. I was not only involved in the development of the Capcom qualification and just our training flow in general, but I was also slated to be the CFT Capcom for their rendezvous phase. And so I can't wait to do the monitoring now from the space station. I just had no clue that I would get this opportunity to be at the front door when they arrive. So I'm super pumped, and I can't wait to see my two friends that are inside that capsule.
Yeah, that coincidence is too much. So obviously you're going to be busy on the space station with your experiments and any sort of maintenance and spacewalks that come up. But what about on a personal side? What kinds of things are you hoping to do in terms of, say, reach out to communities or personal projects in your limited spare time?
Well, I've brought a lot of faith-based things with me. I have reached out to certain groups that interest me and teach me, and so I'll be reaching out to them while I'm up there. I'm going to do a lot of looking out that cupola if I get free time, and I'm going to be lending a hand to my other crewmates whenever they've got stuff going on and need an extra hand. So really haven't thought too much about special projects, but kind of leaving myself open for what needs to be done.
Wonderful. The space station has certainly changed a lot in the 14 years or so since you've been up there. And so are there any particular areas you're looking forward to exploring or things that you're looking forward to doing that weren't possible the last time around?
Yeah, this is really nerdy, but the timeline viewer, when I was up there, was completely different. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to the timeline and being able to be a little bit more flexible with my timeline and my schedule. Like I said, it's kind of nerdy. It's not really glamorous kind of thing, but I am looking forward to see the PMM wasn't there before when I was there, nor was what's that?
So you're saying that the timeline viewer is a little bit easier to understand, smoother? Like, how is it that you're looking forward to it?
Well, it's a brand new timeline viewer, and it's a lot easier to interact with. So you can move bands all around, and there are actually easier ways to interact with the timeline. So you can make the viewer more personalized for what you need for that day, as well as the kinds of things that we populate the timeline with are much more helpful in terms of keeping us more efficient. There's also activities that used to have to be performed at a particular time, but we have since gone through and scrubbed all these activities to see which could be done on a flexible basis, meaning that the astronaut can put them at any point that they see fit in their timeline, as long as it doesn't conflict with other things. There's also this Gucci new program to get through stowage. And anytime a cargo vehicle comes up, we were printing out paper after paper to keep track of cargo that we moved. But now it's all contained in an app that we can all interact with. And so, like I said, it's kind of nerdy stuff, but I can't wait for the efficiencies that to experience the efficiencies that these have provided.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I know that some of the difficult resources up there are both time and also physical space, given that it's been operational for 25 years, you're trying to get the most out of your time. So no, I completely appreciate it.
Yes.
So another thing I wanted to ask about was, given your chemistry background and your electrician background, can you talk a bit about some of the experiments that you're most looking forward to doing to use that skill set?
Yeah, well, there's a number of experiments in physical sciences, which is my background by training. And so I was just talking about the flame experiment, Sophie, that's going to be conducted in the SIR rack. And that just gets at mechanisms and physical properties of flames in space, which really interests me. There's also, we have a levitation furnace in experiment that's going on in the Japanese module. I was trained on that while I was out at scuba training there, and I'm really looking forward to those experiments. there's also a really cool experiment that combines biology and EVA. It's called ISS External Microorganisms. And so it's where we go EVA with a swab box, and we basically give the space station a COVID test, and we test areas where the environmental control system basically vents to the outside just to see what kind of microbes may be carried outside and transported. And that has all sorts of application for not only spacecraft design, but just understanding what can survive in a harsh environment like space. I'm a subject for a number of human research projects, and so I'll be donating bodily fluids and my brain waves and heart rate and pressure stats and all sorts of things like that. So there's just a whole host of things I'm looking forward to participating in, either as a subject or as the operator.
Okay, I'm looking forward to hearing more while you're up there and also while you get back. I think our time might be over unless I hear differently in the next couple seconds. So thank you so much for your time. Good luck. And we'll definitely be watching and following you. Okay?
Excellent. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Why? This is fascinating. Yeah. Fox's Ted Lindner unravels the importance of them and what life on Earth would be like if we didn't have them.
It's still the shortest month, but this year, February is an...
Good morning, Tracy. Go to my tip, please. Just count to 10 for us.
A leap year. And while it may not seem like a big deal, there's a whole
3,
lot of science
4,
and math behind
5,
why we alter
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
The length of the year and the length of the day are not really related to each other.
A year is measured by the amount of time it takes
We got you. Thank you.
to make one full trip around the sun. According to NASA, that takes about 365 days, 6 hours, and 9 minutes.
In order to keep the calendar synced up with things like the seasons, particularly when the beginning of spring is and the beginning of fall, the equinoxes, we have to make a correction to the calendar.
And if we didn't have leap years, life as we know it would look a lot different.
What would happen is eventually the calendar would get out of sync with the seasons. So we would like to have the start of spring be in March. And if we didn't have the leap years, eventually the spring would start to drift and we'd start having the first day of spring be in January or October. The basic idea is that usually every 4 years, you add an extra day to the calendar.
But in the distant future,
the length of the day is actually growing longer due to tidal effects from the moon. So eventually,
We're about 30 seconds away.
Leap years anymore, when the number of days and years is exactly 365. That's going to happen in about something like 2 to 3 million years from now.
The next leap year won't be until 2028. Ted Lindner, Fox 35 News.
Stand by. We're coming to you live.
With just 3 weeks, an American astronaut will join 2 Russian cosmonauts on a Soyuz capsule on a mission to the ISS. She will spend about 6 months on board. NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson joining us live this morning. She is in Star City, Russia. I hope you can hear me okay. It's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, good. We have a very long delay, just so you know, and our viewers understand. It's a long way to Russia. Talk to us first about why you are going up with the cosmonauts. We have, of course, our own mission going up here on Friday from the Space Coast. We've got 4 astronauts going up, and we actually have a Russian cosmonaut going up from here on the Space Coast. So why are you in Russia going up with cosmonauts from there?
Well, it's all part of a little bit of our barter system, where we have a U.S. astronaut on Soyuz and likewise a Russian cosmonaut on a U.S. vehicle. And that's so that we can ensure the presence of both U.S. and Russia on the space station at all times.
Tracy, talk to me about the difference of going up on a Soyuz versus you flying a shuttle. I know you were on shuttle Endeavour back in 2007. Talk to me about some of the differences.
Well, there's in terms of the vehicle, the shuttle was flown more like a rocket turned into a spaceship turned into a glider, whereas the Soyuz starts its journey as a rocket, a capsule, and then or a spaceship, and then it becomes a capsule and lands on the Earth, whereas the shuttle landed on a runway. The shuttle was beautiful in its complexity and redundancy. The Soyuz is beautiful in its straightforwardness and its robustness in systems. And so there's as much beauty in their contrast as there is in their similarities. There's also a larger crew on board the shuttle. There's just 3 of us inside the Soyuz. And so it's a little bit more cozy on the flight deck in the Soyuz.
That you use the word cozy. I mean, tight quarters. Talk to me about how you prepare yourself for 6 months away from family and friends and the things you love here on Earth.
Ooh. Well, good thing that the training takes a couple of years, because it gives you time to think about what's important and get things in place so that you can still be close to family and friends, regardless of how far away you are. So it takes a little bit of thought and preparation, but NASA's really good at connecting people, and crew members are certainly no exception. So they've put a lot of resources into making sure that we can stay connected with our families.
We're very excited for you. It's so much fun to talk to you, Tracy Dyson. Congratulations on this next mission. And of course, we will be watching and praying for you. Godspeed.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, Darlene.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. We're having a little bit of audio problems over here, but we found a way around it, I believe.
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Have we started the...
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. All right. So, what are you anticipating the most for this third trip for you? What'd you say?
I'm anticipating a lot of work and a lot of cooperation between myself and my crewmates, and to get the job done. There's just a whole host of activities on board, ranging from taking care of the space station to taking care of the science, both inside and out. And so I'm looking forward to just getting the job done.
Great. And you will likely be doing more spacewalks, correct?
Yeah, we have 3 planned in our increment. We have 3 trained and qualified spacewalkers, and so between the 3 of us, we will be going. We'll be participating in all of the spacewalks, either from the suit side or from inside, suiting up the crew members.
What can you tell me a little bit about your study on the flames spreading in space? What that involves? And why that's important?
Yeah. Oh, sure. The investigation's called Sophie, and this one in particular is looking at flame spread, and it has its applications in fire safety, especially with spacecraft and with a mind on exploration. But anything, of course, that we learn in the process of making life better in space definitely helps us understand our life on the Earth a little bit better. And flames are one of those fascinating things where they behave much differently in space than they do on Earth. But when we're in space, we can learn about the characteristics of a flame without the presence of some of the effects on Earth that help us understand the fundamentals of flames. And so there's the aspects of the fundamentals. There's also the application of understanding what parameters are most suitable for extinguishing a fire and those that cause a fire to spread, which is not a good thing in spacecraft or space stations. So as crew on board the space station, we'll be involved mainly from the setup of the hardware and connecting cables and getting all of the samples in place. And then the real analysis will take place with the investigators on the ground.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's something I never really thought about before, but fascinating. So this is your second long stay up in the station. Since you've done this as your second round, how do you think that's going to affect your experience up there? Were you able to focus differently? I would assume be more relaxed with everything. What do you think? Have you thought about that?
Oh, sure. I've thought about it a lot during training as well. Having been there before, a little bit more situational awareness than I did before. And I kind of know what to expect, both physiologically as well as just the tempo of operations on board, and how to prepare myself for that. But there's been a number of changes on board the space station since I was there last. So there's plenty for me to learn and change in terms of how I approach some of the tasks on board, just because our operations have changed a little bit. So a little combination of both.
And I was reading your background. I was just curious, like, how you chose your path. Did you? And I also saw your singing of the national anthem. So that was something I did not know about. Did you ever reach a point as a youth where you had to choose between your track, music, astronaut, or did you always know what your choice was going to be? Science.
Oh, yeah. I always knew I wanted to be an astronaut. The other things kind of just stumbled upon on my path to becoming one. The track was a big part of my life growing up, and even through college, competing at that level. But what I enjoyed the most about that was not only physically being able to accomplish those things, but just being a part of a team. But I didn't see myself going on any further, like in the Olympics or anything like that. But I did see myself joining NASA and staying there for a while.
So you've been in the program from the shuttle to the ISS, and now we're about to, our ventures further into space. What are your thoughts on what you've seen and where things are going?
Interesting, because when I first got into the astronaut corps and started working at NASA, it wasn't nearly the popular agency that it is today. Back then, when we were building the space station, I think everybody wondered in the country what we were doing and was it really worth it. And so we were always having to kind of defend or justify our work on the International Space Station. Whereas today, it shows in the number of investigations that we have on board the space station, the scientific and technological investigations that we have, just the incredible interest that there is in the space program and the space station, as well as globally with our partners. We've proven that internationally, international partnerships do work even in space. And so I've really enjoyed that transition from the hard to the easy in terms of getting the public interested in what we're doing, and for the rest of our supporters to really see the benefit. And now that we're looking toward beyond low Earth orbit to the moon and beyond, it's just some incredible momentum as I look back from the very beginning of space station, even before the space station with Shuttle Mir and the other programs that we had, just that we do now have some momentum going forward. And I'm really excited to still be a part of the agency while that's happening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. They're telling me to wrap up, and it's been a pleasure visiting with you. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, darling.